Let's go ahead and bring it on back. Did everyone have a chance to share? Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. I know we love talking about our projects, and I'm glad everyone had a chance to do that. Did anyone have something they'd like to share that has been standing in the way of them finishing a draft? And I'd love to hear a possible solution that you discussed with your group. Would anyone like to share? Oh, I see you back right here.
You sort of covered it, but we discussed that the creative process is a very different mental process than editing. And so if you
100%.
try to jump back and forth,
That is a good point, and I don't, thank you for making that point. Building momentum is a huge part of being successful with these things. And you can build a momentum while you're doing your first draft, and you can build momentum in your editing, and it will make a huge difference to get that ball rolling. Thank you for that. Rick?
We discussed essentially something that affects all of us, and that is energy.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was Shakespeare who said, "Fatigue doth make cowards of us all." And when you are too tired from the day, it's hard to plug into that creative outlet, and ways then to tap into that reserve at more propitious times of the day.
That is absolutely true. Thank you. And I had not talked about making sure that you're keeping your energy up beyond, getting enough sleep. But yes, you definitely want to be aware of your energy. I did read one person commented, try writing at different times of the day to see when your energy's probably there. And that's one thing you can try. Some people think writing when you're sleepy is good because you're more creative as you're drifting away. I don't know. I read that and somebody recommended it. I thought, oh, well, maybe that's why I'm creative, because I don't get enough sleep. But did anyone else want to share? Oh, go ahead.
I use a couple strategies. If I'm just absolutely completely blocked and just have no desire, no passion, can't do it, I'll read a book not in my genre as a palate cleanser.
That's a great idea.
That's a really good idea. And then the other thing that I do is sometimes what I'll do, especially if I'm and again, I write nonfiction.
Of course.
So if I'm a long ways through it and I have maybe 30, 40, 50 pages earlier, I will stop and say, I can't go anywhere. I'll go back to the beginning and I'll read everything from the beginning and essentially edit and polish and just refamiliarize myself with all the material all the way from the beginning, and then when I get back to where I'm supposed to be, I'm usually ready to write more.
And
That's a
you've done
great
this how
point.
many times?
With every book.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, I'm working on numbers 48 and 49.
Yes. And this is what I mean by, if you have something that works for you, please do it. If he did my don't look back method, it might not work for him at all. So if there's something you have found that works, continue to do that. And I often find, especially with editing, it's very good to just go back and go through, and it can build some momentum. Who else has one they'd like to share? Mike?
So when I'm at my most productive, I will make myself sit down every day and write something. So I'm not worried about being super productive, but if I'll just make myself do it. So I may write 100 words 3 of those days, but then you'll have that one magic day where you just write 2,000 or 3,000. So if you make
Exactly.
yourself do it, then you'll find yourself having those productive moments more often.
Exactly. You can't force inspiration, but you can certainly encourage it.
Mhm.
That's very true.
This is just one of those things, you had mentioned the Pavlovian thing. I don't always do music, but I will try if I'm having trouble getting that discipline down and getting in the mood to write
Yes.
or whatever. If I'll take a hard candy, whether it's peppermint or light a particular candle, and the smell or the taste of something, then every day, oh, get that butterscotch. Oh, okay, now I'm writing this character. And just that one thing, because taste and smell is such a big thing,
Oh,
it will get
that's
you in that
huge.
mood. It's
Yeah.
completely Pavlovian.
Yeah, you should probably patent that before, because that's probably one of the better ideas I've heard. Because that's pretty brilliant, because those senses plug right in.
Smell, but just that in your primitive brain.
Yes, one thing I've done is I've found sometimes you can change the things in front of you, like at one point I bought a cassette that related to what I was working on. I had the case up there. I had something set up that reminded me of what I was working on. You can change your environment to reflect what you're working on, and it's one more thing to put you into that state. When she mentioned getting into that mood, they call it flow. And if anyone finds a way to get into the flow state consistently, please share it with me, because it's honestly, it happens to me so rarely. I can think of specific times where I have just felt that flow, and it's so incredible.
Practice.
But I will practice, but I will also make the point that I've read several times, people will go back, and when you force yourself to write and you make yourself do that, and then you also have days with flow, like you talked about your inspirational days. If you go back 10 days later, you won't be able to tell which words happened when you were inspired and which days happened when you just forced it, because it will all blend together, and that's pretty cool. So, but man, I love that idea. Taste and smells.
So-
you guys run with that. What's
So what do you
yours?
mean by Pavlovian? Because
Oh.
it kind of rings a bell.
I know.
He gets that look, doesn't he? All right, back here.
There's medication for that.
I'm into the playlist thing. I have a different playlist for every story I start, and I like scary stuff, so I actually downloaded some haunted house spooky effects, like.
That's a
you would
great
hear,
idea.
And that, boy, that's just is thrilling.
That sounds like a great idea. Ambient noises, creating that, I love it. Okay, we're gonna go just a little bit further. All right, as you go through, I want you to embrace these positive personality traits. Be someone who is stubborn, conceited, and selfish. Well, I guess that doesn't sound very positive, but watch this. It's not that different. We want to embrace things about ourselves and be tenacious, confident, and devoted, okay? You see how close they are? 3 of the letters don't even change, all right? Because we've stated several times, you're the only person who really cares if you finish that book. I want you to finish that book, and it would make me happy if you do. But I will not force you to do it, because it's not my book, it's yours. So the only way you're going to get that done is if you, by the skin of your teeth, you just hold on and keep going. You also have to tell yourself, this is going to be good. It's not delusional. If you work hard enough at it, it will be good. Be confident in yourself. It's worth doing. And devoted isn't quite there. I tried Googling for a positive version of selfish, and it's hard to find. But selfishness, sometimes you have to do it. You could also just call it self-care, or just important things. Christine talked about you'll be at the kitchen table, and then you'll be working, and you, oh God forbid, you're in the flow state, and someone comes up and talks to you, and it's gone forever.
Yeah.
All right? That's just
call.
Yeah, a phone call. Real life getting in the way. The only way you can avoid you've got to be selfish. You have to be. And the thing is, anyone who is ambitious, and let's be honest, we're a little bit ambitious because we want to share these things with people. You have to be selfish sometimes. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to say, this is what's important. In my first years of writing, I often said, I think people would be more respectful of my time if I worked in a fast food restaurant than they are of my time that I'm spending writing. There's nothing wrong with working fast food. I think those people are saints, and they are working hard, and let's pay them more, all right? But I often compared myself to that because the dynamic was these people are working a real job as opposed to writing. And writing is just as hard in many ways, but people do not respect that time. Especially when you're if you're like me, I'm a bit of a sucker. I'm just kidding. That's not the right way to say it. I care about people a lot, and if they need help, I'm the guy who shows up and helps people move and does those things. It's how I endear. Yeah, I don't have a truck, so I'm not that in demand. But I like to care. I like to take care of my friends, but I have learned there are times I have to say no, or I'm never going to finish that stuff. You have to be devoted to the work and get it done. All right, finish your first draft because no one else can. Before I just end up, I did want to say one thing, and I don't have a slide for this because I wasn't sure how to word it exactly. But having been around for a couple of years in this group, I know that a lot of things happen to us, and a lot of or we do things and things happen. I've been talking a lot about the robot novel that took me so long to finish. What happened with that book was I had finally gotten it going and it was rolling along, and then my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. It wasn't something that could have never happened, but it wasn't something anyone expected. And it rocked me and it rocked my family just to the core, all right? And I didn't write anything but short stories about death for like a year. And I know that sounds depressing and everything. It made things hard, and it made it hard to go back and do that book, especially because my father-in-law was such a great supporter and encourager. But I've come to realize that it was okay for things to fall apart there for a little while. When real life happens and there's trauma, that's to your brain. And you're working with your brain. Your brain is your main tool when you're typing things up. It's not just your fingers. Your brain's got to work. So if you have a book and something happens and real life happens and there's a disaster, something gets in the way, don't be surprised if it knocks your book off track. And don't beat yourself up over it. But if you are in that place right now, what I want to tell you is that you can get yourself back up out of it, and that it doesn't have to last forever. The thing about seasons is that they change. And if you've been in a season for months or even years where you could not finish that book, I want to tell you, finish your first draft, because no one else can do it. No one else can. If you're, I was talking about tropes with someone earlier. Tropes are basic building blocks of story, and they're cliches. And one cliche is we talked about caring about what happened to incidental characters. Well, that's called what happened to the mouse. You want to know what happened to that little character. Or there's a million of them, but one of them is life interruption. And if God forbid, if something happens to us before we finish our book, it'll never get done. But if we finish it, it's done forever. That book will always be there. And this isn't trying to be depressing, and I suddenly think that it did. But the encouragement is, if you're able to finish that first draft, the ideas will be there forever. All right? Even if you don't get it published. If a good friend of mine was writing a book and then he just couldn't finish it, if his first draft was done, I could finish it for him. You know what I mean? But if that first draft's never done, it'll never happen. So that's just to say, finish that first draft, because no one else can do it. No one else can make it happen. But if you make that first draft done, that's a book in its own way. It's not ready for being published. It's not ready to be shared. But if you finish your first draft, that is a success. You can scream from the hilltops. And I want that to be something that you folks are all able to do. So whether it's your first one or your second one or your third one, get that book done. And we all look forward to reading it.